Call of Duty has changed a lot over the years, and in some ways, for the worst. Something has been slowly destroying Call of Duty for years now, and it's not talked about enough. It's driving players away and creating a lot of frustration in the community. By the time this video is over, the way you see Call of Duty will be changed forever. You see, back in the mid-2000s, Call of Duty would charge you $60 for a brand new game every single year. A few months after launch, the game would receive a couple of extra maps at an extra cost, typically around $10 to $20. As time went on, Call of Duty began to develop a pipeline of constant content to keep players engaged. There'd be a new map pack every 3 months, keeping players on Call of Duty up until the next one was released. This would eventually grow to feature extra content like zombies levels, guns, and more, but the value remained the same: $60 for the base game and $20 per DLC pack, typically rounding out to be about $100 in total over the course of a full year if you bought everything. We even got season passes, allowing players to pre-purchase all of the DLCs up front at a slightly discounted price. It was a good system, as players could reliably expect a certain amount of content in a certain amount of time, and because you had to pay extra for it, it incentivized the developer to make it as good as possible. This remained the status quo for years and was an industry standard for a lot of other games as well. Battlefield, Halo, and many other online games would support themselves for months after launch with paid content. Even single-player games would sometimes offer season passes for big story expansions. However, things began to shift a bit in the 2010s. The industry moved toward how it could passively generate money. The season pass or DLC packs have a ceiling to how many units they can sell. If 5 million people buy the new game, only 5 million people can buy the season pass. But if there was a system that would allow repeated spending at a lower cost, incentivizing numerous small transactions over the course of months or even years, the possibilities are endless. And this is what we know as microtransactions. For Call of Duty, this began with $2 gun camos, guest voice announcers, and other small additions to the game. All of this was fairly harmless at the time. Not only was it all pretty cheap individually, but you definitely didn't need any of it, and certainly didn't need to buy everything. With that said, it wouldn't take long before things would get a bit more controversial amongst fans. In 2014, Activision released Call of Duty Advanced Warfare, a game that already divided fans due to its major changes to things like movement and setting. Now, it also introduced supply drops, aka loot boxes. This was the first time Call of Duty became pay to win, as some of the best guns in the game were only obtainable from getting them in these drops. Now, although you could earn the drops by playing the game, the fastest and easy way to get them was by spending money. For a few bucks, you could get a cool gun or some sort of cosmetic item. However, if you didn't get what you wanted, you could simply whip out mom's credit card and try again. It was like a Call of Duty slot machine, letting you gamble real money for in-game items. Despite some players disliking this idea, it was highly successful for Activision's bank account. For the next 4 years, Call of Duty would keep this going, even in Call of Duty 4 Modern Warfare Remastered, as that added supply drops to encourage in-game spending, though this was for cosmetic items only. However, as more games experimented with loot boxes, regulators began to raise concerns. Was this fair to players? Was it teaching impressionable kids to gamble? And it wasn't long before the controversy and action from various governments pushed Activision away from loot boxes. But how would they make up for the loss in passive revenue? Well, thankfully, Epic Games largely solved this problem for Activision with a revolutionary new system known as the Battle Pass. Every few months, players could pay $10 for a pass that would allow them to unlock items as they earn XP. They could also spend extra money bypassing tiers To speed up the process, and Activision could also sell items separately in the in-game store. To sweeten the deal, Activision also killed off map packs. Every single map, mode, and piece of major content would be added to the game for free. It seemed like a great trade-off for players. In theory, they no longer had to spend any money after buying the game itself, since all the meaningful content was included free of charge. However, as time has gone on, maybe it's time to start asking the question of if this was actually an even trade. Call of Duty's post-launch period has become increasingly messy. For starters, the content is given to you over an extended period of time. Instead of having one big bundle of content to enjoy, it's drip-fed in order to keep players coming back more regularly. It's a bit annoying as it feels like stuff is being saved for later. It makes new seasons feel a bit less impactful because instead of there being a boatload of new stuff to play and experience, it may just be 2 maps with the rest coming in another month or 2. It's the soulless nature of the live service model. Everything is about engagement rather than the most enjoyable experience for the player. Everything is also so scattered that it can be hard for the player to even remember what's coming and when you need to return. When these were paid map packs, you knew that on release day, you'd get all of the content, and you knew in 3 months, you'd get another big drop. You didn't have to closely monitor social media posts or break down a roadmap to understand what was coming. The content also doesn't feel as valuable. How many post-launch Call of Duty maps since they became free can you name or remember? Probably not many. They all blur together because they're just not very good, because the players don't have to buy them. There's not as much pressure to make something really fresh or interesting. Think about Black Ops 2's Revolutionary Map Pack. It was released in January 2013 and featured 4 great maps, a new zombies map and mode, and the iconic gun, the Peacekeeper. Treyarch added a fresh and varied batch of maps, such as Hydro, which had dynamic events such as a spillway that would randomly flood and kill anyone in its path. There was also Grind, a really unique and now classic Call of Duty map set in a colorful skate park, which felt like a big difference from the gritty battlefields we were used to. We also got Mirage and Alps, 2 maps that contrasted each other by being in hot and cold locations with sand and snow. Each map had a unique identity and justified itself as being something you would pay money for. All of the maps were also brand new, meaning nothing here was rehashed at all. Now let's compare that to Black Ops 7 Season 2. There is technically more content, but the quality is arguable. There are 4 brand new 6v6 maps, though the bulk of them appear to be lifted from levels created for the campaign, which was a total mess. Instead of feeling like something totally fresh, it's a reminder of the worst part of the game, and they don't even feel interesting to play. Now, to try to make up for it, Treyarch is bringing back 4 maps from previous games. The irony is we've come full circle, as Grind is returning in Black Ops 7 Season 2. One of the best DLC maps is now a free post-launch map to try and boost the quality of the overall season. Although Black Ops 2's first DLC added just only 1 new gun, it felt special because there was only 1. The devs could cater to it and make sure it was as interesting and fun to use as it possibly could be. Now, guns are drip-fed and generally they don't stand out. They often feel like clones or siblings of other better guns. Black Ops 7 is a notable offender of this since it's trying to lean into nostalgia and reimagine a bunch of Black Ops 2 weaponry. It feels more like it's about hitting a quota and delivering a quality experience to the fans. There has also been a heavy focus on remastered content as well. So much of the content we're getting is not just maps from over a decade ago, but also ones from just a few years ago. It's a lot of recycled content to mask how little good and high valued content we are actually getting overall. It feels more like a way to fill time in between full games which are also suffering from being recycled. Although Activision promises to not do this anymore, the last 4 years of Call of Duty have featured back-to-back games that were recycling content from older, better games and trying to compensate with big post-launch roadmaps that were also pretty mediocre. Alternatively, when Call of Duty did remaster content in paid map packs, it felt much more significant. In Black Ops 3, Treyarch released an awesome DLC known as Zombies Chronicles. The DLC added 8 classic Zombies maps from past games, and not only gave them a visual overhaul, but also integrated Black Ops 3's new mechanics into the old maps. It was a huge treat for fans and felt like a lot of love was put into it, as opposed to just quickly throwing something together to fill out a map roster. These roadmaps feel like they need to blow people away, so much so that Modern Warfare 2 withheld basic features from the base game to try and make it seem more exciting as a seasonal update. Things like underwater combat, proc chat, and more were hyped up as big new features to try to make Season 1 of the game seem like it was radically changing the gameplay experience. It's like a loophole or a shortcut to try to make things seem more valuable. A lot of attention has also turned toward crossover content and skins as well. This is where a lot of money is made as a result, and it sometimes seems like the selling point of a new season. It can feel like a distraction from how bland the actual maps and modes are, and unfortunately, you're paying more for less. These skins sometimes cost as much as the actual DLC packs did in 2010. Yet all you're getting is a special cosmetic and maybe some weapon blueprint for $20. The value proposition is extremely poor in comparison to the DLC packs. Overall, it feels like there's a major inconsistency when it comes to these seasonal content drops. The quality isn't there. The frequency of drops feels scattered, and there's a lot of content being either recycled or withheld to be used as fluff for an otherwise lackluster update. It's just flat out disappointing. Now, this isn't exclusive to Call of Duty either. Battlefield is struggling to retain fans despite having outsold Call of Duty and getting better reviews. The game has received 2 maps since October, and currently, Season 2 is only expected to add 2 more maps. Battlefield used to pump out 4 maps every 3 months, along with new weapons, vehicles, and more. And the maps weren't just dished out one at a time. You got all this content at the exact same time. DLC packs and season passes held developers accountable. In order to earn our money, they had to give us content regularly, and it had to be of a certain standard. The only downside was that it could split up player bases. Those that didn't have map packs were put into separate matchmaking pools, which could create issues, particularly years after the game was released and player counts were already low. Maybe the solution is to make map packs free after a certain amount of time in order to avoid the issue and improve longevity. Although games like Fortnite have obviously perfected the live service model, maybe it's not cut out for some other developers. Epic Games operate on a totally different level and aren't trying to make new content while also releasing a whole new game every single year. Maybe the live service is meant for more games that aren't going to come out every year, especially for a premium game like Call of Duty. Fortnite is able to justify battle passes and crossovers and its entire formula based on the fact that the entire game is completely free. Call of Duty is a $70 game released every single year. Of course, it also exists on Xbox Game Pass, but the point is, this is a premium game title. The content should be premium as well. Call of Duty is trying to have its cake and eat it too, which is creating all kinds of problems. Even though Warzone is free, the bulk of the seasonal content often revolves around the premium version of the game. Perhaps it's time for Call of Duty to scale back a bit and focus on smaller but higher quality content drops at a cost. Now, this may mean that there are longer gaps without brand new content, but at least what is given to us will be more meaningful. Perhaps the nature of gaming won't allow for this anymore either, with shorter attention spans and more distractions in the form of things like TikTok, and sometimes the genie just can't be put back in the bottle. However, something has to change. These seasonal content drops aren't fulfilling anymore, and there needs to be some kind of compromise made. Now, let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. How do you feel about seasonal content drops? Do you prefer it to be paid map packs? How can we improve this beast of Call of Duty? Let me know in the comments down below. Leave a like if you enjoyed the video, subscribe if you're new, and we'll see you in the next one.